Hello and welcome. This is episode 3 of Killian's Plastics, talking footy tactics, also known as soccer, in the United States. I'm here with my guest for today. He was here first week. He's back again. It's Gabe.
Glad to be back. Granted, I wish I could have been here for the second week, but unfortunately, my car broke down, so I could not make it. But Darren did a pretty good job with his predictions, if memory serves.
We will talk about the predictions. We'll talk about my predictions. We'll talk about Darren's. We'll go over the games from the Premier League over the weekend. Some upsets. However, we will talk about how I did guess one of those upsets, which I was pretty happy with. But yet, Gabe is back. Unfortunately for him, he could not make it last week. His car said he shouldn't be on the show. So I guess we have to listen to what his car says. But we got an interesting week of topics. We got the Champions League back this week. Last week, we talked about the Ballon d'Or. You want to quickly mention the Ballon d'Or because you weren't here last week, Gabe? Do you want to mention if you thought it was fair that Dembele won it? What were your thoughts overall?
I mean, Dembele definitely was one of the best players throughout the year,
Yes.
and I would definitely say that nobody else deserved it over him. The main thing that I was most shocked by was Rafinha getting fifth. I thought to myself, in no world should a player with the season that he had be finishing fifth in the Ballon d'Or behind players like Mo Salah, behind players like Vitinha, and that's no disrespect to either of them. But the year Rafinha had is almost unheard of.
I agree. And I did say that. I thought that was probably the most surprising, along with Pedri getting 11th.
That
I
as
thought those
well.
were some of the more surprising results from the Ballon d'Or. We're going to move on from that. You know what? Let's just start straight off. We're going to talk about the Premier League and some of the results. So, spoilers, but the results for points. So, the first week, I did beat Gabe. I started off with a win, and the prediction series is what we're going to kind of call it. Week 2, it turns out I was able to get 9 points. My guest for last week, Darren, he turned out to get 9 points as well. So we did tie. If you don't know, just a quick reminder, the points go based off of 3 points if you guessed a complete correct result, meaning the amount of goals scored, the team who won, all that. 1 point if you just get the right result, the team who won or lost, and 1 point if you just got the right amount of team goals that team scored. So pretty much we're going to do this again for next week. We're going to see what Gabe's predictions are, but we're going to talk about a couple of stuff. And why not start off by talking about a game? I didn't watch the whole game because it was at the same time as Manchester City, but had a great ending. And that was Crystal Palace versus Liverpool.
That was a really interesting one that I did not expect to end the way that it did, truthfully speaking. I mean, the whole kind of controversy of, I think it was a penalty denied for Palace, and then didn't Liverpool get awarded one if memory serves? Although I could be
No, they did
misremembering.
not. Liverpool got a goal, and the controversy was the fact that
Oh,
Mo
right, because Mo
Salah
Salah had handballed it.
handballed it, but it wasn't definite evidence. It was difficult to tell. I guess it didn't matter in the end because Crystal Palace still got away with the win. So, were you surprised by this result? I think many were.
100%. I mean, you're usually seeing Liverpool come out with the kind of late comeback win. And for the script to kind of be flipped on them was definitely one of the more interesting parts of the series, especially because Palace hadn't looked great so far in the season. Granted, they've been looking better as they've gotten kind of used to not having Eberechi Eze in the lineup, but I was not expecting them to beat Liverpool, truthfully speaking.
Honestly, I would say I wasn't expecting them to win, but that wouldn't be true because I did predict that Crystal Palace would beat Liverpool 3-2. They won 2-1. I'm very happy because the prediction, I told many people, they're like, no, it's not going to happen. My reasoning behind it, you could see that Liverpool were eventually going to start slipping up. You can't sustain that many late victories. It's not sustainable to win so many games by one goal, concede goals, and score really late. You can do it from time to time, but eventually you're going to lose some of those games, especially against good opposition. And the thing Crystal Palace have done under Oliver Glasner is they've proven that they're good opposition. They won the FA Cup. And another reason I said they could do it is they beat Liverpool in the Community Shield, the first game of this season. So I was like, they've done it once. Why not do it again? Plus, Crystal Palace is just overall a very good team. I think they may sit second in the Premier League table. No, I think they sit third because Arsenal would be second now. But either way, they're having a great start to the season. They're the only team in the whole league who has not lost a game this season. So it was Liverpool along with them before that. Crystal Palace beat them. But overall, if you saw the game, Crystal Palace, I do think they deserved it. The first half, I thought they were outstanding. I think Mateta hit the post. Allison, some great saves. Unfortunately for Allison, he's now injured after their Champions League game yesterday. But overall, a great performance from Crystal Palace. And if they didn't come out with a result there, if they lost or even drew, a lot of their fans would have been very disappointed. And I think a lot of the league would have been very disappointed because if Liverpool found a way to win that game as well with how well Crystal Palace played, it'd be like, what can we do? Is it even possible to beat them?
Right.
But
I mean, Crystal Palace had looked like the dominant side pretty much the entirety of that game. So the
well,
fact
second
that
half, not really, but first half, definitely,
for a
yes.
majority of the game, I would argue that they looked like the better side. And despite that, Liverpool had found that equalizer, and it was like, well, this is only a matter of time. And then all of a sudden, Crystal Palace manages to sneak it away in the very last dying minutes of the game,
Hmm.
which I don't think many people would have expected it to go down like that, given Liverpool's track history with those late comeback wins. Speaking of the Champions League one, they actually recently just lost to Galatasaray
They
in a
did.
similar kind of incident. And even with Allison injured, they still have Georgi Mamardashvili, who they signed from Valencia.
Valencia, yeah.
And even if Allison's injured for an extended period of time, I do think that Mamardashvili is going to be a really good standing goalkeeper for them for the time being.
Yeah. Funnily enough, well, not necessarily funnily, but interestingly, Allison as a goalkeeper does pick up his fair share of injuries. And last season's backup, and for a couple seasons backup, Kelleher, who's Irish himself, we love the Irish over here. Kelleher, he got a lot of minutes for a backup goalkeeper. And obviously, as a supporter of the Irish national team, I was always happy to see Kelleher playing a lot for a top side like Liverpool. He left to be the number one starting keeper. I think Allison has picked up a lot of injuries. I think last season he was injured for a substantial part of the season, which with goalkeepers, you don't usually see them pick up that many injuries, obviously, compared to outfield players. But yeah, Allison, it seems like a concern. And that's probably why they went out and spent that money to get Mamardashvili from Valencia. Fairly a hefty price for a backup goalkeeper, you would say.
The main thing is that they brought him in knowing that he was going to be the future of the
That is
goalkeeping
true,
position
yeah.
for Liverpool. Allison is getting fairly up there. And while he's still a very good player, you do notice that he's injury prone and you do notice that he will sometimes make mistakes like that. Where at some point you have to start thinking for the better of the club and think, okay, who can I bring in that we can still give time to learn how to play with our system and how to then learn more from Allison. And I think that they've
Yeah.
done a great job of business there, even if it is a little expensive. They got one of the more talented younger goalies in world football right now, which Mamardashvili, if you didn't watch the Euros this past year and a half, and then with Valencia as well, he looked
Hmm.
really good for them, both in La Liga and with the Georgian national team. So I think that was a great job by Liverpool. Granted, we have
Hmm.
yet to see what the deal with Allison is, but if he's out for an extended period of time, I don't think Liverpool misses that much of a beat.
Yeah, that's why when they signed him, I was always kind of interested because I was like, why would you not try and be the number one at because he's a solid goalkeeper. I thought he'd try and originally go straight to being number one at a top club instead of maybe going to Liverpool, then having to wait for a bit of time for Allison to maybe leave or retire eventually and then take his spot. But I mean, with the thing with Allison getting injuries and stuff, he is going to get a fair bit of game time, even though he's not the number one. But moving on from Liverpool, no, not moving on for Liverpool. What I will say is the reason why we love this sport is even when you don't support either team, everyone loves a good hate watch. And by hate watch, I mean watching a game rooting against the team. So I was watching it hoping Liverpool would lose. And even if your team's not playing, it's always fun to watch because when that Crystal Palace and Ketia goal went in, I said I thought Mateta would score, who's got a famous song like Boom, 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 Mateta's in the room. Ironically, Eddie and Ketia's got a song that he's in the room as well. So I was having a good time after that win. But
No,
moving on from Liverpool, we're going to talk about another hate watch that went successful, which was Manchester United losing.
to the Brentford Bees. That was definitely one of the more interesting results, and it was not a close game the way that the Liverpool was in terms of the scoreline. Brentford had control of the score for most of the game, and even with I think the score was 2-1 at one point, it never really felt like United were back in it.
Well, United did have the penalty to make it 2-2. So I don't think that's fully true, but to an extent, United were just not playing well. The thing with United is I don't think they want it as much. There's lots of players you can see why are they not playing this good? You're watching them and you know that they have much better quality than what they are showing. And it clearly has to be that they're disinterested, that they don't really want to play for the manager anymore. And it's probably only a matter of time until Amram's gone and they have to find a replacement.
Speaking of that, there was a rumor going around recently that they were going to cut him before, I believe, November 1st, so as to not give him another paycheck, I believe, in one of his contract stipulations. So it's rumored that they might move on from him as soon as this next month. I don't know how accurate it was because I didn't get the chance to properly fact check it, but that's something that I had seen online. Might have been from Fabrizio Romano, who's a famous football journalist, but I wouldn't be able to fact check that right now.
Yeah, I mean, the thing with United is if they're firing their manager based off of financial decisions, that's just showing where all the issues of the club lie. You need to be making these decisions based off of sporting merits. If you think he's not the right man, you get him gone at the best time period. Whether that has to do with financial decisions, it shouldn't, because you need to be thinking about in reality, what happens with these teams is the better you do sporting, the better you do on the field, the better the finances will be. And in the long run, the more time that United spends outside of playing European competitions, the more time they spend losing games, getting lower in the league table. It's only going to hurt them financially. And I mean, they're still spending money, but I don't know how long, based off of like financial fair play, all the regulations you have teams like Villa not able to make signings. They have to sell players, and they were in the Champions League last year. They're in the Europa Conference League, I think.
Almost beat PSG in the Champions League, might I add.
The winners, PSG, yeah. And they had to sell players. They had to sell players because weren't meeting the financial regulations of the Premier League. And United has been consistently finishing lower. And obviously, United make a lot of money from things such as jersey sales because they're such a huge club, tickets. But at some point, you got to start thinking they can't spend more money than majority of the teams in the league if they're finishing lower in the league table.
Because I'm seeing teams like Newcastle going for the same targets, and while they were losing out this transfer window, at some point you're going to start realizing, okay, well, why would you choose Man United over Newcastle? Why would you choose Man United over like a Crystal Palace? Why would you
Exactly.
choose a team that's consistently proven? Jesus, I cannot speak right now. Proven to be dysfunctional when you can go to a team like a Palace, like a Newcastle, like a Nottingham Forest, where you're seeing constant progression from all the players, from the coaching staff, from the ownership. Although with Nottingham, that one is a little bit questionable. But you're seeing nothing but progress from all of those teams.
hmm
And then Man United has just been a constant regression since even before Fergie time.
I mean, the thing with that is the only reason, and I think United fans can agree with this themselves, if you're a professional player and you're thinking about going to a team, there's no reason other than the fact that Man United is a huge club with a huge name and lots of history that you would choose them over, let's say, a Newcastle, let's say, a Tottenham, let's say, a Chelsea, even a team like a Crystal Palace, maybe, because Crystal Palace you can use as a good stepping stone. There's a lot of good players who've gone to Crystal Palace. For
Elise,
instance, Elise,
There's
as
so many talented players that have come through that Crystal Palace team.
and they've taken the next step after that. When you compare it to players at Man United, they take that step to Man United and their careers don't
They
progress.
plateau or worse, they regress.
They do regress. And you see it with a lot of players. Once they leave Man United, like Rashford, we talked about last week, you see them start to flourish. So that's going to be an issue. I wonder if that's going to consistently continue with new management after Amarim probably gets fired soon. Um, Probably. There's no reason to say it won't because this has been continuous over many managers since Alex Ferguson uh, resigned and retired. How long ago? Maybe about
I believe it was in
it was
2013.
in 2013. So, yeah. Moving on from Man United, we're going to talk about Chelsea, who lost another game. They lost to Brighton. And I don't know what's going on with Chelsea, but yesterday they did beat Benfica in the Champions League, but they got a red card. And in the game against Brighton, they also got a red card.
Was that
So,
the Roberto Sanchez losing his mind one, or was that am I thinking of something
no,
different?
it was Chalobah. So
Oh, it
what
was Chalobah
happened
that
was
got picked off.
Chalobah, I think it was Malagusto. I could be incorrect, but the ball got played, a bad back pass, and went straight to a Brighton player. And Chalobah was the last man back. He fouled the Brighton player, got sent off. I think you may have a little bit of experience with fouling someone as the last man and getting a red card, Gabe, too.
Sometimes you have to do it for the better of the team, and unfortunately for him, the gamble didn't pay off. I can respect him trying it because at some point you can only try certain things and just pray that in the long run it works out. Unfortunately for him, it did not.
But yeah, but that does mean that they have gotten a red card, Chelsea, as in talking about they, against Man United, against Brighton, against now the other yesterday, it was against Benfica, who Jose Mourinho is now taking over. Everyone loves Jose Mourinho. He's such a character. But I mean, how do you even coach that? Like, how what do you even say? Is that like just a bad period of luck? Or is it something you can tell the players? Because obviously it's a common sense thing. You don't want to get a red card, but it's consistently happening. I don't know what to say about it.
My best guess is that Chelsea as a whole are a very undisciplined team. A lot of their team is just young talents, and there's not really many veteran players that you can kind of look to on Chelsea and be like,
That's a good
this
point.
player is a leader. I should listen to what they say. With Maresca, you obviously listen to the coach, but you don't have the kind of veteran presence that you would have at, say, different clubs like a Man City, where you have like a Ruben Diaz as the kind of no nonsense, straighten everything out. You don't have that with Tottenham where they have Coutinho Romero. You don't have that with other teams. Whereas with Chelsea, it's just younger players. And that's not to criticize Chelsea for their squad management because they've built a very good team. But it just kind of shows in the big moments that they get super undisciplined. And that's evidenced by the multiple red cards that they've gotten in the previous few games.
I think that is a good point. Brighton, with another good result, we'll talk about them as well because that's a good win away at Chelsea.
Brighton's been
But
having a lot of good results recently against some of the
they
bigger
have.
teams.
They have. They're a good side. I don't think anyone can disagree with that point. They are a good side. But Chelsea are causing their own problems. If they don't get that red card, I think you'd still favor Chelsea to win that game. So they got to fix up on those issues. They got to figure out what's wrong going there. And because the thing with Chelsea is everyone's expecting them to have a good year. They got in the Champions League for this year. They're playing in the Champions League. They need to get back in the Champions League 2 years in a row. Keep playing in there. They won the Club World Cup, which was pretty much a shock. People still don't fully understand how much of a big deal the Club World Cup is, just because it's the first time the competition was played to this extent in this format. So people can't really tell whether or not
It's a
it should
serious
be.
competition.
It's a serious Well, it's serious enough because people were playing their strongest lineups, but they can't tell if you can consider it to the extent of a major trophy like a Premier League, a Champions League, stuff like that. So I guess that's only a time thing. We'll tell, but it's once every 4 years. So it's going to be a while till we figure out the ins and outs of how important the Club World Cup will be in the future.
I mean, the main reason why people thought the Club World Cup wasn't super serious was because there were teams like Liverpool, there were teams like Barcelona that have been some of the best teams in world football that year, missing out on the Club World Cup due to pre-existing
That's true. Rules.
qualifiers for it, which you can understand. But like at the same time, if it's the Club World Cup, how is an amateur team from Australia matching up with like Bayern Munich? And deservedly so, they got killed. But like you can make the argument that like if I think it was Auckland City FC or something like that
You're right.
can make it to the Club World Cup, well then why should I take it seriously when FC Barcelona can't?
That is a good point. However, I think that's kind of why the tournament was at least more interesting to me because we have the Champions League. That's where we see teams like Liverpool, PSG, Barcelona all play. That kind of made it unique. I went to one of the games. I went to Man City versus Wydad, which is a team from Morocco. And it was just interesting because I'm going to be completely honest. I had never heard of the team until I looked them up before that. You have fans from different countries. I think it's a good concept that will be worked on and continue to improve in the future. So we'll see how it goes. We'll have to wait a while for the next one.
I mean, there was also the one Brazilian team that managed to shock the world as well. I think it was either Botafogo or Flamengo. I can't remember exactly which one of the two it was.
Multiple of them. And
But
Palmeiras too.
Palmeiras, that's where it was, I think. It was a team with Estevao where
Mhm.
they managed to make it to, I believe, all the way up to the semis, if memory serves, although I
Think
could be
you're right.
misremembering.
Think you're
But
right.
like it shows that even if they're not considered to be some of the best, you can still see that they're gonna be capable of putting up those kind of fights.
All right, we're going to do a quick break. We're going to just read out our ad for today. So, as usual, it's a great show to be on. You guys should all start your own shows. Doesn't matter what you have to talk about. It could be sports, it could be about your personal life, it could be about school. Why not? It's a good experience to have, even if you're not in media yourself. It's something fun to do with a friend, with someone that you're part of a group or a club with. It's a good thing to join. So, if you're interested in having an audio ad for WIUR or for WIUR Sports Broadcasting, DM us on Instagram with your concept or contact one of the e-board members who will help you and give out more information. So, definitely do that, guys. It's much recommended.
Great show. They know what they're doing.
So, next, we're going to talk about Manchester City, the team I support, who got a very expected win against Burnley, but at the same time, with lots of the favorites, lots of the big teams this week not winning, dropping points, it says easy. It seems easy for a team like City to beat Burnley, but you still got to do it, and that's what they did.
And Burnley's known for being the team that's going to try and shut everything down. So the fact that they were able to put 5 past Burnley was honestly pretty impressive on its own.
I do have to say, it definitely wasn't a 5-1 game in itself. At halftime, it was 1-1. I was a little bit worried because I was like, ooh, I don't know what's going to happen. But what I can say is Jeremy Doku consistently now has been putting in performances. And I think he got man of the match in the stadium. That's what they were saying. Once again, he's been brilliant the past couple of weeks, Doku. And the thing with Doku is everyone knows his dribbling can maybe be matched by one or two in the entire world at the moment. He's just such an incredible dribbler, but it's always been the shooting. It's always been the passing, the crossing, stuff like that. And at the moment, he's been getting goals. He's been getting assists. That's what we've been asking from Doku. We want to see him take that next step. And if he continues like this, I don't honestly, if he continues on the form he's had the past couple of weeks, I think he could be in the Premier League team of the season. And I don't think that's a bad shout at all. I don't
I
know.
don't think it's ridiculous to say that. The way that he's been performing recently, he's been looking very good, especially
Mhm.
for a City team that relies on creation from the wings now with De Bruyne being gone.
That's true.
So the fact that he's been able to do so much for them on the wing, I believe he had what, 2 assists? One to Holland and one to
Technically at known goal.
well, technically the own goal, but yeah, even still, like he's been having himself a really good year. And if other City players can do that, I can definitely see them up there challenging with Liverpool and Arsenal for that Prem title.
Well, the thing with City, I said this before the season started. I don't think we will win the Premier League, but I think we'll put up a fight. And this is a manager, and there's still a good few players. Obviously, a lot gone, retired. Their time's come and gone. But this is a group of players who do know how to win and do have experience of winning titles. So there's no reason to count this team out. From my perspective, I believe that this team can do great things. It may take time because it's a new set of players, but when you see Liverpool dropping points, when you see Arsenal struggling against different teams, why not go and try and win the league? I think it's definitely possible. Even though I don't think it'll happen, you got to try. But Erling Haaland, the one thing I was going to say on the show, I was thinking when watching that game, I was like, oh, Haaland didn't get his goal. I guess, sometimes you watch games and you're like, that player, you can just tell they're not going to score. It's not their day. They're
And
just
then
not
he
having it
pr-
going.
and then he proceeded to sneak one in the very dying minutes of the game. No,
You're wrong. He proceeded to sneak two in. That just shows what sort of player has a game where it's like, oh my gosh, they just can't score. It's just not going right. He's not going to score today. And ends up scoring two. Just shows Holland, freak of nature. That's what Thierry Henry said. He said that Holland's a freak, but he can continue to get freakier, which is an interesting statement. But he did say that Thierry Henry, one of the best Premier League players of all time. But I think consistently throughout this podcast, I'm going to keep mentioning the fact that Holland, he's on a mission this year. He's on a mission. A lot of people were disrespecting him last year. We have people saying he's not the best striker in the Premier League when I fully disagree with that. And I think majority of people should also disagree with that because I don't think it's that much of a comparison. I think he is by far the best striker in the Premier League.
I mean the other thing is that he's having his quote unquote worst statistical start to the season, which I believe is 6 goals in 5 games or something like that, which is still ridiculous numbers. So the fact that that's his quote unquote worst statistical season for Man City so far is mind boggling to just how dominant he's been for
Mhm.
Man City.
I do think this season as well, he is doing more in general, just because the fact that in previous seasons, City were more dominant on the ball. They didn't need him to have as much of an impact. But this season, considering the fact that City aren't as good on the ball, you don't have creators like Kevin De Bruyne in the midfield. You play more transition. You play longer balls. You play quicker. And that kind of suits Holland a bit better. That's kind of why you see him looking so dangerous this year. And that's why he's being more involved. You play long balls. Holland's going to hold the ball up. You could chest it, win headers. He's going to have more space to run in for through balls. And that's the thing with Holland. Everyone at Borussia Dortmund before Man City, everyone loved him. I think everyone thought he was going to be the next biggest thing in the world, which he is. But what happens when you go to the team like Man City? People are going to start hating. And that's what happened. But I don't think deep down anyone truly believes that Erling Haaland isn't one of the best strikers in the world.
100%. I mean, he's been arguably the best player in the Premier League right now with the amount
Hmm.
of goals contributions that he's been putting up. So anybody saying otherwise is just engagement baiting. Like Isak, no disrespect to him, is a phenomenal player. He's not on the same level as Erling Haaland. Who else? Sheshko is not even in the same realm. I'm
Like
trying to think of other strikers. Mateta is solid, but same
Gyökeres.
thing, nowhere near. Gyökeres had one good year. So far, he has not lived up to the standard that I would believe Arsenal fans had set him.
I mean, he's being good, but good is not Erling Haaland. Erling Haaland is great. So let's see. Erling Haaland does play in about 10 minutes. Man City are playing Monaco in the Champions League. Let's see if he grabs some more goals. Hopefully, City will win that. Difficult game. Monaco's got some interesting players, Ansu Fati. I think they have Eric Dyer, who used to play at Spurs. I think Paul Pogba isn't playing at the moment, but he's going to be joining Monaco soon. So hopefully Manchester City can get the win there. But other Champions League games, we talked about Liverpool losing. They did lose to Galatasaray. Chelsea beat Benfica, and we'll see because Barcelona do play PSG this week.
Which should be a very interesting game. Because a lot
Unfortunately,
of people would have believed that should have been the UCL final
true,
matchup.
true. Unfortunately, a lot of players are going to be. I think Rafinha is going to be injured for that game. I
I think
think
there's a lot of injuries on both sides,
on
if
both
memory
sides,
serves.
which honestly is very disappointing. We all want to see both teams at full strength, battling it out, competing with their best players, just because we want the best game possible to see the best players. And that's from a neutral perspective. That's why we love the sport. We want to see the best compete against the best. But we're going to move on. We're getting towards the end of the show. We're going to talk about predictions for next week. So,
The
Gabe,
one thing I do want to kind of talk a little bit about is the Arsenal
sure.
Newcastle game because we didn't really
We
get into the
didn't.
specifics of
Oh, we
that
have to
one.
mention that. No, can't believe we forgot that. That was a game. Probably. Ooh, I don't know if I could say game of the. No, probably was the game of the weekend. Even though Crystal Palace
I would have
against.
argued Palace Liverpool would have been that, but regardless, it was
Yeah,
still a very good game between the two sides. Newcastle went up 1-0 due to a goal by Nick Woltemade, who's been very good for them so far. And then Arsenal managed to pull off a very impressive comeback, which you usually don't see too much of from Arsenal. But when you bring in Mikel Merino off the bench, really incredible things happen for him.
that's glazed. But yeah, no, I was disappointed. I wanted to see Arsenal lose, as always. But yeah, unfortunately, it was Gabriel who scored the winning goal too. A person I do not necessarily like, but it is what it is. He comes up with lots of big goals from corners for Arsenal. And one thing you can say about Arsenal is their corners are maybe unlike we've ever seen because I've never seen a team score so many corners. I don't think I can remember the last time Man City scored from a corner itself, but Arsenal seem to do it every week. They're incredible at it, unfortunately. But yeah, Newcastle, very disappointing that they couldn't have got that win. They looked like a very good side. The game was interesting because you had players getting elbowed, grabbed. There was potentially a penalty for Newcastle, one where Gabriel handballed it, wasn't given. Arsenal fans thought they could have had a penalty as well, but it was an entertaining game. If I was not to be biased, it was a good game. It was pretty entertaining. When you have a last minute goal, it always spices it up. So Arsenal got a win. It's the big win. St. James's Park is a difficult place to play, and that's a very big win for them to get on their chase for a Premier League title. Will they finally do it this year? Who knows?
Probably not, but credit to them. They played really good, and I would definitely argue that In the first half, they wouldn't have deserved it, but after seeing that second half, they definitely deserved to come out with the 3 points because they looked really dangerous in that second half.
Mm. All right. So we almost forgot to talk about that, but at least we mentioned the Arsenal Newcastle game. We're going to do our predictions now. So we're going to kind of speed run this. We're not going to talk too much about the teams themselves. We're going to more so say the scores. So Bournemouth at home to Fulham, Gabe.
I believe Bournemouth finally bounces back. I believe they're going to win 2-0.
I'm going to say Bournemouth win 3-1. 3-1. Okay. Next, we got Leeds at home to Tottenham.
I think that Tottenham is going to bounce back from their streak of draws, and they are going to win 1-0.
Okay. I think Tottenham will also win, but don't count out Leeds. I did count out Leeds maybe a week or two ago, and I was definitely very much so wrong. But I'm gonna count them out once again. I think that Tottenham's gonna win the game. I don't want to say 2-1. 2-1. It'll be close.
All the lead up to not count Leeds out just to immediately count them out, man, is such a hypocrite.
Yeah. No, I agree, but I don't think they're gonna win this week. All right, Arsenal at home to West Ham, who has a new manager, Nuno.
Arsenal is going to win, and it is going to be a comfortable 2-0.
I think it's going to be 1-0. Nuno can set up a team defensively. The first game, he started off with a point against Everton for West Ham. And I've talked highly about him in previous weeks about why he shouldn't have got fired for Nottingham Forest. Let's see how he does at West Ham. Let's see if he does well. I think it's going to be 1-0 Arsenal. Man United against Sunderland.
Ooh, that's a tricky one. I feel like that could be a 2-2 draw just because of how questionable Man United's defense has been.
I think that it's going to be United at home. I'm going to say 2-0 United. I don't know why I'm saying United are going to win, but I'm predicting it. Chelsea versus Liverpool. Good game at home for Chelsea.
With Chelsea missing Chalobah, realistically, Liverpool should win that one fairly comfortably, even if it is an away game for Liverpool. I'm going to say a 3-2 to Liverpool.
I'm going to say 1-1. Aston Villa at home to Burnley.
I'm going to give Aston Villa the 1-0. Fairly boring one, I believe.
I think Aston Villa will win 2-1. 2-1. Everton at home to Crystal Palace.
Palace, I believe, comes out with it, but it's going to be 4-1.
Ooh.
I'm predicting a blowout.
I think Everton's going to win. I think that Crystal Palace are going to be on a high and they're going to get knocked back down. Unfortunately, I think Everton are going to win. I think they're going to win 2-0. I think they're going to win 2-0. Newcastle at home to Forest.
I'm giving Newcastle a 3-0.
I think Newcastle will bounce back from that loss to Arsenal. I think they're going to win. They're going to win 2-0. Wolves at home to Brighton.
I still think Brighton comes out on top just because of how they look this season. I'm going to give it to them 2-1.
I'm going to go Brighton 1, Wolves 1. I think Wolves are going to get a point. They played well against Tottenham. They should have won, but they didn't. Last game of the weekend, we got Brentford at home to Manchester City.
See, you could make the convincing argument that Brentford has a chance to do the double. I don't think that's going to happen over the Manchester City team. I think that Manchester City is going to win 2-1. It's going to be close. Brentford's going to be coming off that high from beating Man U, but I don't think they are going to be capable of seeing that through.
Okay. I do think City will win. Honestly, I'm going to say it's close. I think it's going to be 2-1. I think it's going to be a good game because Brentford are a good team. They're at home. Solid. They were able to beat United last week, but I do think City will win. So that's our predictions. We'll see how Gabe and I do. Hopefully, for Gabe's sake, he'll do better than he did in the first week.
That first week was not a good one for me. We're going to have to look to bounce back on that, hopefully, during this week.
And hopefully, I win against Gabe again. Last week, I got a tie. So we're going to see how many points I get. So first week, I won. Second week, I tied. Let's see what happens the third week. But for now, hopefully, you guys enjoyed the show. It was good having you all episode 3. And we'll see you guys all again next week.
Take care. Thank you for your time.